Hello and welcome to Wine This Week with Scott Leek. Have you been stuck in a routine with your white wines of either Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, or Pinot Grigio? We're going to change that today. We're going to mix it up with an exciting alternative. And in this week's tip of the week, I'm going to answer the question, how do you preserve that unfinished wine as long as possible? All that's coming up next. I'm excited to be reviewing a white wine here in episode 2. I love my red wines as much as the next person does, but there is something about a white wine with the flavors and aromas that just cannot be matched any other way. This wine is Albariño. Albariño grows in the Iberian Peninsula, so we're talking northern Portugal and the northwestern corner of Spain in the region of Galicia. This particular producer, Caña, grew their grapes in the designated region within Galicia known as the Rìas Baixas. And this is the prolific wine growing region of Albariño in all of Spain. I'm excited to get started with this wine, and I'm not going to waste any more time on the history lesson. Let's get started. I screwed up. By the way, did you know when you pour your wine, you are not actually supposed to touch the glass, the bottle to your glass? Now you know. All right, my rules first. I know I'm supposed to look at the color, but oh, wow, I'm glad I smelled that first. That is awesome. I am excited for this. Okay, color. It's very clear, it's bright, it's fairly pale. I'd call this a straw to maybe a little golden color. It's not the most yellow I've seen in a white wine, but it's lovely. I like the look of it. Some kind of skinny, slow-moving legs on it, and I'm not surprised those legs are a little slow. This is a 13.5% alcohol bottle of wine, which that's getting up there a little bit with a white wine. But let's get started with some smelling. Man, that is nice. This is powerful. This is a really powerful nose. Wow. I can tell it's youthful. This is a 2018 and it shows. Really fresh, crisp. I'm getting some apple notes, some citrus, but really tropical notes. A lot of pineapple. Some floral notes, maybe, I don't know my flowers that well. Maybe this is honeysuckle. And there's some minerality, which given this particular region and it's close, these grapes grew 2 miles away from the Atlantic Ocean. So I'm getting some of that minerality and maybe some salinity from it. And what's weird is I get a little petrol, which is a much more of a kind of an Alsace Riesling kind of smell, but I get it here. And there is absolutely no oak. I should have looked it up, but I'd bet just about anything this was fermented in stainless steel tanks. Just a lovely nose. Wow. Okay, let's taste it. Okay. All right, I gotta focus. This is good. Sweetness wise, it's not very sweet. It's not bone dry. I'm gonna call this off dry. It's kind of right down the middle. It's very nice in that regard. Tannins aren't really worth mentioning as a white wine. There really aren't tannins too much in white wines. Acid, pretty high. I'm going to call it medium high to high. The alcohol, like I said, it's kind of medium high. And again, granted, I'm cheating. I know it says it on the bottle, but I do get a little bit of the heat in the finish. The body and the texture is good. It's not, I'm not going to go full on creamy, but it's definitely not light. And this is going to sound weird, but there's almost this oiliness that I like about it. That's not the right word, but and it just, if you don't know what I mean by the acidity, like I'm worried I'm going to be spitting all over the place here. This is so juicy. I just keep salivating like crazy. Run your tongue around your mouth, particularly your cheeks, maybe the roof of your mouth a little bit. If it's just sliding all around and it's nice and slick, the acidity is just causing you to salivate. But there is this little bit of oiliness to it that I kind of like as well. And again, that might sound a little weird, but it's not bad. There's just a really nice texture to it. The fruit's definitely, like I said before, the notes that I smelled are there. Green apple, a little bit of citrus, that pineapple, and it's just fresh fruit. It's awesome. That floral's a little bit there. I don't taste the petrol quite as much, but it's I can detect it. And then that minerality, which is fantastic. I like this as well. Totally confirmed that there's no way this thing touched oak. This was definitely fermented in stainless steel, which I like the cleanness of the oak. This does not need oak. If there is a little disappointment, it's in the finish. I'd call this a medium to low, medium rare. We'll call it a medium rare finish. I would have liked it to be a little bit longer without much acidity. I thought this would last a little bit longer. I mean, it's still going on a little bit, but not as much as I would have hoped. And complexity-wise, I'd call this pretty moderate. It's not crazy complex, but it's not unnoteworthy either. And I'm going to taste this one more time because it's really delicious. That's a great wine. I've hesitated to score wines, and I'm gonna start doing that. I hate the 100-point scale though. I don't hate it. It's kind of silly though. We all know 90 points and higher is what everyone's kind of looking for. Maybe you'll see a wine rated 88, 89 and they'll brag about it and you're like, okay, it's probably fine. If you really read the publications, you know, I'm not gonna name them, but if you read them, you'll once in a while see a wine that gets 82 points or 75 if it's flawed, but that's kind of the floor. So what's the point of having a 100-point scale? I'm gonna rate this the way I rate just about everything else, 1 to 10 scale. If it's a 1, it sucks. If it's a 10, it's pretty much perfect. If it's 5, it's average and it's serviceable. This is a 7. I'm really enjoying this wine. And if you've not had an Albariño, please give this a try. This has so much going on. This has the acidity and crispness of a Sauvignon Blanc. This has the fruit of a Chardonnay. I like that little petrol that kind of reminds me of a Riesling a little bit. It's a really versatile wine. And when it comes to the food pairing, I want a piece of fish with this so badly right now. I'd love a nice chunk of just fresh off the grill. You caught it earlier today, mahi. I'd love some grilled octopus with this. Anything that's not like overly manipulated and like covered in butter and herbs and all kinds of stuff. I mean, that can be fine, but just simple, natural, freshly cooked fish, I think would be fantastic with this. This comes from a major wine or fish region in Spain. Like some of the best seafood comes from Galicia. So it's not surprising to me that they make a wine that is going to go really well with their cuisine. I also think though that this has the acidity and fruit to hold up against something really spicy. So if you like Thai food or Indian food, I think this could be your foil for those as well. Again, give an Albariño a try, branch out, try something new in your white wines. And a good Albariño can cost you $12 to $25. You don't have to break the bank on these either. I paid $20 for this one. I probably overpaid for it given the particular retailer I bought it from, but this is a great wine. Please, try an Albariño. Your tip of the week is inspired by one of the most common questions I get when it comes to drinking wine at home, and that is, what do I do with my leftover wine that I didn't finish that night? How do I make sure that it's still going to be good a couple days later? So a couple things you need to know. The wine is going to age the slowest if you can reduce light, heat, and air. So what I don't recommend you do is put the cork back in the bottle and leave it on the counter. What you want to do is get a good stopper. I like my fun little silicone drunk guy who's enjoying the wine as much as I do. You can use that. If you want something a little bit fancier, one of these little deals that maybe supports your favorite top 10 men's basketball team. But I really recommend you use a vacuum system like this. So these are going to cost you anywhere around like $15, $25. You put this stopper in, put the vacuum on top, you're going to pump all of the oxygen out of the bottle, or at least as much as you can. And that's going to maybe give you about 3 to 5 days if you then put it in the refrigerator. That colder temperature is going to help slow down the process. It will not ruin the wine. Even with your reds, put it in the refrigerator. The problem is, most of the time you are drinking about half a bottle and putting the other half in the fridge. So even though you vacuumed it out, you drink down to what is the thickest part of the bottle. You've got the most surface area of wine left in the bottle as possible. So there's still going to be some oxidation, and that vacuum can only do so much good. The best thing you can do is actually get yourself a half bottle of another bottle of wine, drink it, and then save the bottle. So in this case, I've got a half bottle of sparkling wine. You can go out and I'd even say, like, I've seen Kim Crawford or Mayomi do half bottles in with screw caps. So that'd be even better, that once you're done with it, you got a bottle that you can reuse that's got a screw cap. So, and what I actually do at the start of my night, if I know like my wife's not going to have any wine, it's just going to be me, I only want half the bottle, it's about 2.5 glasses, I will immediately open the bottle and take my nice little funnel here and pour half of it into my old washed, reused half bottle. I'm going to fill it all the way up to the neck and then put in one of my stoppers, or again, if you got a screw cap, that's even better. Now you've got this tiny little neck with a little slit of air in there. It is almost as if you didn't open that bottle of wine at all. Put it in the fridge, and that thing is going to last you 7 days, 10 days, maybe even 14 days. I wouldn't try that out with a really nice bottle, but on some of your everyday drinking wines, you can get it to last even longer immediately putting it in that half bottle. If this has been open for a couple of hours and you try it, it's not going to have quite the same effect. Right after you open it, put half in there, put it in the fridge. If you decide later half a bottle of wine wasn't enough for the night, then go back in the fridge and get that out and drink some more. But that would be the best way to preserve your wine and get it to last as long as possible if you're not going to drink it all in one night. Now let's just say you go and you reopen that bottle a week later, and maybe it's a little bit off, maybe it's kind of turning a little bit, you waited a little too long, whatever the case may be, you just don't feel like drinking it anymore. And maybe you're a little pissed at it, so you kind of want to just dump it down the sink to punish it. Hold off. Just try to restrain yourself from that drastic step. What I want you to do is take an empty ice cube tray and fill your wine that's maybe turned a little bit in the ice cube tray and put it back in the freezer. The next time you're cooking and you have a recipe that calls for a cup of dry red wine or a cup of dry white wine, use your ice cubes that you froze from your wine that was not quite good anymore, not good enough to just outright drink, but it's going to be plenty good enough to cook with. Because one of the things that annoys me the most is when I got a recipe and it calls for some wine to cook with, the last thing I want to do is open a bottle of really good wine that I'm going to have with that meal and have to dump some of it into my meal. I want to drink all of it. So use the ice cube tray trick and save that kind of leftover but not so great wine for cooking next time. If you're not into cooking, the last recommendation I'll give you is to go online and look up a recipe for mulled wine, which is really nice in the wintertime, or some sangria in the summertime. So there are your multiple tips of the week. Thank you for watching this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If so, please give me a like below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so as well. I'd love to see some comments, particularly if you've had an Albariño or will try one. Give me some thoughts on it below, as well as any questions you might have that I can address in future wine tip of the weeks. Please join me next week in episode 3. We're going to move back to Italy, except heading up north into Piedmont, and we are going to have the Barbera grape. I'm excited to bring that episode to you. In the meantime, keep trying some new wines, and until I see you again, cheers. And that's delicious.